What's going on, everyone? Angry Fury here, and welcome to my AIRUT Slayer guide. Go ahead and get started. So, first of all, AIRUTs have a combat level of 175, and you will need 92 Slayer in order to kill them. They currently have no weaknesses, and they're not aggressive, so if you walk in an area towards them, they're not instantly going to attack you. As far as getting these from Kuradel as your Slayer assignment, she will usually assign anywhere between 138 to 158 at a time, which means your Slayer task experience is around 110,000 to 126,000 Slayer XP per task, as well as 276,000 to 316,000 combat XP per task, and this is not including your Constitution or Hit Points XP. Two things you definitely want to know is the AIRUTs do have two special attacks. They have a melee special attack and a ranged special attack, and we will go over that in more detail here in a minute. As far as your actual inventory setup, how I do it is I like to bring 2 overload flasks. If you don't have those, then you can go ahead and bring 2 extreme sets and flasks, or if you don't have that, then 2 super sets. However, I highly recommend you use overloads or extremes at least, and that's because the AIRUTs have a very high defense, and if you do not have your stats at max, then it's going to be slower experience per hour. I also bring 2 prayer renewer flasks, around 8 to 10 prayer potion flasks. You have to kind of test this out for yourself depending on your combat stats. If you have a charming imp, go ahead and bring that. That way, of course, you don't have to pick up the charms. If depending on what familiar you're bringing, go ahead and bring the scrolls, at least 200, an extra pouch for that familiar, and then food. And it's also advisable if you have them, well, let's put it like this, if you don't have a pack yak, then I highly suggest you bring magic note paper, and that's so that you can go ahead and note the AIRUT bones, as they are around 10k each at the current moment. Alright, really quick, we're going to go ahead and go over the gear setup. I usually wear a Slayer helm if I'm on a Slayer assignment. However, if you're just killing these for sport, I would go ahead and wear a Bandos helm or a Daharix helm. And of course, if you really have the money to go out and buy Torva, then of course, go ahead and wear that. I also wear full Bandos, the chestplate, tassets, gloves, and boots. And if you don't have Bandos, that's fine. You can wear any kind of Barrows armor like Varix or Daharix armor. As far as my main hand and offhand weapons, I use Drygor maces. Any Drygors will work. In fact, if you are using a Drygor, you're going to take them down pretty quick. If you don't have a Drygor, I'd say bring a Chaotic Maul or a God Sword, and of course dual Chaotics would work. I just wear a skill cape. If you don't have a skill cape, just any other cape that's around that will be fine. Worst case scenario, bring an Obsidian cape. As far as necklace, I like to bring a Fury or Glory. And then your ring, if you're inside Kuradel's dungeon on a Slayer task, bring the Ferocious ring. If not, then a Berserker or Warrior ring. And if you don't have that, then go ahead and bring a Ring of Wealth to try to go ahead and get some better drops. You do not have to use an aura. However, if you find that you are having difficulty in killing the AIRUTs, Penance, Vampirism, and Aegis will help. Penance will help you keep your prayer points boosted because as you take damage, it ups your prayer points. Vampirism is kind of the same as Soul Split. You get a certain percentage of health based on the damage you put out. And Aegis lasts for 30 minutes instead of an hour, but it helps prevent certain damage that you would take, kind of like a protective shield. And if you are a lower level but high Slayer, which I'm assuming that if you guys have 92 Slayer, you're probably going to have decent combat stats. In the pocket slot, you could go ahead and bring any kind of a sign, such as a sign of item protection. So if you die, you're keeping an extra item. However, I really highly doubt that you're going to need this, since you should be able to get to your gravestone fairly quickly in the event that you die. As far as a familiar, I recommend you bring a pack yak with the scrolls so that you can teleport those bones back to the bank, as well as hold a ton of bones inside the pack yak, or bring extra food with you. However, I know not a lot of people have 96 summoning, so if not, a War Tortoise will be fine. Of course, keep in mind that if you are bringing the War Tortoise, then you're probably going to want to bring those magic note paper, that way you can go ahead and note the bones and don't have to make 10 trips back to the bank. If you decide you want to go more for a healing type familiar, then I recommend a unicorn. If you have 88 summoning, of course you will need the scrolls for it. And if you have none of these options available to you, then I would recommend a bunyip. However, I highly suggest you bring either a war tortoise or a pack yak. As far as your ability bar and prayer setup, you don't really have to have a specific action bar setup. All I recommend is that you have the ability Anticipation, and you have the threshold ability Debilitate. The reason that you want these is because they help combat the AIRUT special attacks. We'll go over more of what these things do here shortly. Then as far as prayer, if you are on curses, I highly recommend that you bring or use Soul Split and Turmoil. And if you have those, then I would just switch off between Deflect Melee and Deflect Range. If you are on the regular prayer book, then I would recommend Protect from Melee and Range. What's going on, everyone? Alright, now that we went ahead and went over the inventory setup and the gear setup, we're going to go ahead and make sure your ability bar is ready. So the two abilities I was telling you were Anticipation, which is right here, and what it does is it reduces all damage taken by 10% and provides immunity from stuns for 10 seconds. So it's okay, it's not bad, but it does help you to prevent damage, especially if he's hitting you with his bigger attack. Now primarily you will use Debilitate, and what it does is it basically hits your target for some damage, but it reduces damage that the target would deal to you by 50%, so it halves it for 10 seconds. So it's really useful, especially if you activate it the second you know the AIRUT is about to use one of his special attacks. Now, the two special attacks he uses are a melee special attack and a range special attack. If you're using a melee setup, which is what we are, you want to watch out for the range one. For some reason, the range one, I don't know if it's like a magic-based range attack, but it's definitely the one that can do the most damage to you. So the way you can tell is he roars both times. So the second you hear him roar, you want to instantly watch the screen. Okay, but if he starts beating his chest, and roars at the same time, you know he's about to do the melee one. If he roars and swings his right arm in a circle, you know he's about to do the range attack. So basically what you want to do is you want to build up use your basic abilities to build up your threshold bar. That way you have the ability to use Debilitate, and then keep using your different thresholds, but do not use an ultimate. That way you always have the ability, well, let's put it like this, try to keep your bar about 50% on your adrenaline, and then if you see him use the one where he swings his arm, then instantly hit Debilitate, and you should be fine. So really quick, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the map and show you where we're going to go. Of course it won't work while we're in here because we're in the dungeon, but either way, it's not going to matter. So there's a few main ways to get there. The way I'm going to show you right now is the fairy ring, and you're going to go down to, let me find it on here, the Piscatorius Hunter area, which is AKQ. You can also use the Eagle Lodestone, or you can use the Spirit Kayat and do the teleport to the Piscatorius Hunter summoning area. Either way, all three of those work, so we'll go ahead and teleport there. Alright, once you're here, you're just going to run straight to the west, right out here, and here they are. So you can see the fairy rings. If you have access to them, it's really easy to get here. So now that we're here, I will go ahead and show you on the map exactly where we were at in case you were confused. And as you can see, here's the Piscatorius fishing colony. This is where the fairy ring is, and if you took the Eagle's Peak Lodestone, you would just have to run northwest to get up here, and you would teleport right around here if you had the Spirit Kayat. So that's where we're at. So now that we're here, we'll go ahead and do a demonstration. So you're going to want to go ahead and pot up with your overload, your prayer renewals. Go ahead and drink a little bit of prayer. Make sure your prayer is actually up a little ways. Go ahead and pray Turmoil and Soul Split and start attacking. Go ahead and use your basic abilities. And as you can see right here, he's already instantly started his range attack. Unfortunately, I can't hit him with my Debilitate, so I will use Anticipation. And it's working pretty good so far. And I'm not even going to use Debilitate on him just because that was a pretty quick kill. But now we do have our adrenaline bar over 50. So now we'll go ahead and find him again and see if he does it, and I'll show you how it works. Get on this side for you. Hopefully we can see him swing his arm or something when he gets mad, so you see how this works. Because right now these are just his basic abilities that he's using. For some reason, he's not doing it. There we go. So we beats his chest, we know that's a melee attack, and you can see he just starts pounding your guy pretty much. But if you're wearing your melee gear, okay, that attack really doesn't do very much damage, honestly, at all. So you don't really have much to worry about. Okay, I have no idea why we are lagging right now. Let's see, I'll go ahead and pause the video until we get this fixed. Okay guys, I have no idea what the deal is with the lag, but we'll go ahead and get back to fighting this guy. As you can see, he beats his chest like that, and it looks like, there we go. He's starting to use his range attack. Go hit and hit debilitate, which is a kick right there, and you'll see we're pretty much not going to take any damage. Surprisingly, we haven't really taken any damage from these guys this trip, which is actually pretty unusual. Go ahead and pick up these drops. Go ahead and kill one more for you. So usually I'll just hit them with my regular thresholds the best I can as far as to take their health down pretty fast. But as you can see, I mean, even with being boosted up, I mean, these guys are still pretty tricky to hit. So if you're used to hitting like big hits on Abyssal Demon and stuff like that, these guys are not going to be exactly like that. So this is the basic idea. They're really honestly not that hard. Just keep an eye out for those attacks. I know they didn't hit me for very much damage, but trust me, they definitely can hit you for a pretty fair amount. I don't know why RuneScape is lagging like every 10 seconds right now. But other than that, I'll go ahead and leave a small clip after this of me killing a few of these guys. But hopefully this helped you guys out. Until next time.